Hello and welcome. I'm Kenneth Igbomor, and you're watching this special one-on-one interview with the World Bank's Vice President for Western and Central Africa, Ousmane Diagana. The economic and social impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on the countries in Western and Central Africa have been devastating and far-reaching. That's according to the World Bank, who say an additional 15 million people have been pushed into extreme poverty in 2020. The World Bank has put out an ambitious strategic framework to guide their operations in Western and Central Africa over the next 4 years. And the man in charge of bringing this to life is Ousmane Diagana. He's the World Bank's Vice President for Western and Central Africa. He joins me now to break down this strategy. Thank you so much for your time on the show today, sir. And no doubt the pandemic shock has put a dent on the development trajectory of countries in Western and Central Africa. But as they plan to build back better, kindly speak to the importance of that green recovery for these countries.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. More than a year into the pandemic, slower spread of the virus and lower COVID-19 related mortality, decisive action by country to save lives and livelihood, and a faster than expected recovery in commodity price have contributed to improve economic prospect of many countries. I would like really to say this occasion to commend the countries and the authorities for the individual countries for the swift and sometimes bold in action that have been made. And this have certainly contributed to limit the impact of the crisis on the country. But in the same time, we know that this impact, especially on the economic and the social front, has been severe. So the World Bank response in that context has been focused around four main areas simultaneously that are saving life, protecting poor people, creating more and better jobs, and building back better. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, the bank has also made available more than 24 billion to African countries to support their health and economic recovery. We have also mobilized about $12 billion to support the country efforts in order to have access to vaccine, which we believe will be critical actually to limit the spread of the pandemic, but more importantly also to create the condition for the health to be well managed, which is paramount for the recovery of the economy.
No doubt, as you rightly mentioned, that vaccines will play that very crucial role as countries look to build back better. And we know the World Bank has also been active on this front. But speak to some of the recent initiatives and why this level of commitment is needed from all development actors to achieve vaccine equity, which we all want.
Absolutely. Indeed, ensuring fair and equitable access to vaccine for the country is a key priority for us. To support global efforts, the World Bank, as I just mentioned, have made a $12 billion available for low and middle income countries worldwide, with a very special attention paying to Africa. As of mid-June, 20 countries in the region that I have the privilege to serve have requested the World Bank support for emergency vaccine financing project. We have approved already 489 million in the International Development Association, IDA, funding for vaccine project in 8 countries, including Cabo Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, Congo, the Gambia, Ghana, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and Togo. There are 11 other countries for which we are very, very, very advanced in the preparation of their program, and we are confident that all those programs will be not only approved, but also become effective in the next couple of days or weeks, so that resources will be effectively mobilized to support acquisition and deployment of vaccine and ramp up the vaccination effort in every single country. But we don't limit ourselves only to those financing. We are also engaging directly with the African Union in order to prepare additional program that could be regional, so that we level the playing field for all African countries to have equitable access to vaccine. But more importantly also, as I have said in many occasions, it would be very important to also support the production of vaccine in Africa, vaccine that will go beyond COVID-19. We have only 5% of African countries need in vaccine that are produced locally. I think, given the fact that exogenous shocks like a pandemic, etc., are part of the life of the society, and we have to be in better position to prevent from those things happening, or when they happen, that we do have the capability actually to produce our vaccine need, and also to support the training of all the vaccinators, so that the crisis will be well managed and their negative impact hence limited.
No doubt, vaccination will play that important role there. But let's get into your work into the region as you help companies to mitigate the economic and social impact of the pandemic. I know that you've been on the ground recently, but give us some more insight on the new strategy that you're being deployed, which you were alluding to earlier, and also the philosophy behind this approach.
This has been a priority for me. As a bank and the African country have partnering for many years. The idea that we spoke about has been established since 1960. Certainly, we have made progress in number of areas in African countries. Access to education has increased. Agricultural production has been enhanced. We have more and more countries that have expanded their infrastructure, etc., etc. All those happen because of the bank and also partner support, in addition, of course, to the country domestic efforts. But we need to go faster. We need to amplify actually the results that have been achieved, and we need to make sure that those results are sustainable, and the results are benefiting in a way which is inclusive for all the African population. So that's why we have come together as colleagues of the World Bank, and we have worked tirelessly with our client countries through the different segments of their population, authorities, civil society organization, private sector, youth, women, and we had agreed that, in fact, to have even more impact and to go with a much faster pace, and also, identify what are the challenges that are holding back Africa. We need to focus on some area that have to be clean, but also we need to come with a bold initiative. And this allows us, therefore, to focus on four main areas. One is, rebuilding, contributing to rebuild trust between citizen and the state, which is paramount, actually, for the country to work for providing access to their population and to contribute to improve the living condition for this population. The second is to remove the bottleneck that prevent the private sector and the firm from participating more effectively to the economic transformation in the country, and therefore creating more and better jobs. The third is really to strengthen human capital and empowering women. And finally, boosting climate resilience, given the impact of the climate variability in a number of African countries, as we can see this when we look at the current status of areas like Sahel or Chad Basin, to just name those two.
All right, but no doubt that the World Bank continues to engage countries in West and Central Africa, going down to the level of communities. I'd like you to speak to some of the goals that you are setting, especially around the desired outcomes.
As I just said, we have four big goals for the country in West and Central Africa to transform their economy and achieve inclusive growth. We will work, and we have to work with the country to improve service delivery. Extremely important. Reinforce institution and governance so that the people have access to services in an equitable manner. Reinforce, of course, institution, promote digital opportunity, which is very important to expand and accelerate the transformation agenda of the country, but at the same time to lower the cost of doing business. And it's so important to address macroeconomic vulnerability and some of its implication, like debt, for instance. Country also, it's very important, need a stronger human capital. And for that, they need to prioritize health and education. Quality health services, quality education, and making sure that we take very special attention in that context to a population that are more vulnerable and population that live in the rural areas and in regions that are lagging. It's also very important that, as I just mentioned, to continue to pay very important attention to the climate effect for our countries. So I think those are some important elements that are at the center of our priorities. I would just to add to this that obviously this will not be just about defining priorities and defining or formulating strategy. It's making sure that the operation that are prepared in support to those strategies and that translate the ideas that I have just mentioned are implemented quickly through the specific project that we prepare. So in West and Central Africa, we have, as we speak, a commitment of close to $40 billion. And those commitment goes to operation in agriculture, in infrastructure, in health, in education, in access to clean water, in improving sanitation, etc., etc. Timely implementation of those programs is essential for them to contribute to the transformation of the economy of the continent, but more importantly, to improving the living condition of the people that we are here to serve.
Well, no doubt the challenges in the sub-regions are quite a lot, and especially when you look at how to prioritize these development objectives, which you have just rightly touched on a little. But looking at ramping up climate resilience and protecting food security, these are also critical as well. And Africa has pulled the shortest straw when it comes to climate change. But how is the World Bank working to help these affected communities recover and also make the global community do better on emissions?
Yes, I have insisted on the importance of the climate agenda for African countries, and the bank obviously has also put this at the center and front of its intervention in African countries. And this is obviously illustrated by the fact that drought, flood, coastal erosion, land degradation, deforestation are all having devastating impact on the population and the economy. And of course, they contribute, therefore, to tension, to conflict, to violence, to internal migration, to immigration as well. So we are working on a generation Africa Climate Business Plan that address climate vulnerability related to all the points that I have just mentioned, with some core development priorities, ensuring food security, making sure that water is well managed and that clean water is accessible to the population, protecting the environment. So this underscores the importance of pursuing a climate smart urban transition, including green mobility, while supporting the region's ability to protect against climate shock and pandemic. We are also working with the countries to strengthen their capacity to absorb, adapt, and transform the system in response to climate change. We have included measurable indicators of climate resilience in our program, and will increase the shared benefit of our climate finance to 35% by 2024. So whatever we'll be doing will be looked at with the lenses of climate. This is absolutely important, just from prevention angle, but also from a strengthening resilience, both key for stability, for strong and inclusive growth, for job creation, and certainly for the shared prosperity, which is at the center of our mandate as development institution.
All right, but finally, before I let you go, Vice President Diagana, funding infrastructure, especially energy infrastructure, is one of that main barriers that we're seeing that's hindering that energy access and also shifting that shift to renewables. But I would like you to speak to how the World Bank is working with countries in this regard.
Indeed, when I spoke to energy, I obviously always recognize the many and daunting challenges that this sector face in Africa. But in the same time, I want always to highlight, the opportunity that exists and the solutions that are possible. I know that as we speak, there are 10 sub-Saharan African countries that are making progress and that are on track to achieve universal access by 2030. We know that the technology is changing fast, and the digitalization is also revolutionizing, in fact, electricity services business. And this is a unique opportunity for African economy and countries to leverage on. And third, the cost for clean energy and battery storage is reducing. And this also provides an opportunity to accelerate and amplify the access to electricity. So the bank is very keen to support the countries to benefit from these unique opportunities. And the time is now. And in doing so, we will contribute significantly to address the challenges that I have seen. And those challenges are measured, for instance, by the number of African population who do not have access to electricity. We have 600 million of African in sub-Saharan Africa who have no access to electricity as we speak. We know that 68% of the hospital or 75% of school in Africa do not have access to electricity. We know that the cost of the electricity services is more than the double of the cost in sub-Saharan Africa, is more than the double of the cost in OECD countries. So those are the challenges that we face. And that's why we have this type of compact. We have this type of agreement with the African country that we need to combine our efforts in order to double access to electricity by 2024. On average, in the entire continent, we are today at 50%. We want to achieve minimum 65% by 2024. It's possible, as I have said, given the progress that some of the countries are making. It will require political will, but it will also require, appropriate investment supported by finance. And the bank, as a financing institution, has mobilized resources. We are talking about $16 billion for the entire sub-Saharan African countries that we do have as a commitment to support the energy agenda. In particular, for areas like Sahel, for instance, where the access rate is extraordinarily low. In Chad, the access rate is only 8%. We want to triple access in countries like Chad, but on our overall for all those other countries to make sure that we have more, we work toward minimum doubling. So we have mobilized for the 5 countries that compose the Sahel Central 8.5 additional billion to support their development agenda with a very special focus on energy. And we are working with the authorities and with the private sector to make sure that those resources will support the design and the implementation of the energy sector, taking also advantage of some special resources that African countries, for instance, in Sahel have, meaning solar or wind, that are also some source of energy that we need really to leverage on.
All right, thank you so much there for those very interesting insights coming from the Vice President Diagana, and all the best on achieving the outcomes in the regions. And that was Ousmane Diagana, the World Bank's Vice President for Western and Central Africa. And it brings us to the end of this conversation, but we will be monitoring the developments and we'll give you updates from time to time. I'm Kenneth Igbomor. Enjoy the rest of your day.